Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you're all getting in nice and tidy for after the plenary this morning. So we're going to be starting at the top of the hour. We've got 45 minutes jam-packed full of really cool information. I'm joined here by Travis as well. Don't know which way I'm pointing there, Travis, but you might be in the right space. And
Hi,
Travis
everyone.
will be my moderator for today. So any questions as we go through the session, Travis will be either answering them if he can. If not, just do a shout out, Travis, and go, "Hey, Craig, I've got a question here." Right. So the pro session we're doing here is from prompt to pixel with purpose. So it's really, really important to look at the areas of working with prompts. We're in the Gen AI space, but at the same time, we've got to have a purpose. So when we think about purpose, let's think about this question here. So if Gen AI could help with one classroom task, what would it be? Pop your answer into the chat pod, and we'd love to see what sort of ideas are coming out there for what are the areas that you believe Gen AI could be. Now, if you don't know yet, just think of anything. Could be from controlling the classes. No, that can't Gen do that. But also visual impact sort of aspects and helping assisting as well.
I think people just want to know if it can do their marking for them, Craig.
So that's the other part of that there, not the area we're looking with Adobe sort of ones there. So hopefully today we're going to be looking at how we understand Gen AI tools in the Adobe products and how they can enhance your classroom creativity and your workflow. We're going to apply prompt-based design strategies. So we're going to create purposeful classroom assets, right? So they're actually not just randomly doing that. I think we've matured a little bit now. When 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now, sorry, it's almost 22, when the Gen AI first, went more, global. It's been around since 1955, I think it was the first Gen AI, and 59 was the first coining of it. So it's not new. It's something that's just become quite forefront, but advanced as well. And just like we got, with any new technologies, we also have to sit down and work out, well, how are we going to use it? So we explore first up. We do really crazy things like putting, elephant heads onto businessmen and, tigers and that sort of aspect, in, drag, etc. So that whole lot of different approaches there that could be taken. We're now maturing and going, right, how can I actually use it? Now, Travis said there, get my marking done. Hey, this could actually help because we can actually have the students doing a lot of that back end work and telling us how they actually explored and utilized Gen AI as an augmentation rather than an artificial intelligence sort of aspect there. All right, is there any questions in the chat yet before we move on?
Yeah, I think people are pretty excited. They love the idea of it being able to generate images for student projects and prototyping ideas. And someone's even said they just want to harness the AI's power. So if you can cover that as well, that'd be fantastic.
Hey, look, it's always evolving and always changing. So that's that sort of aspect of you think you know something and then you go, oh, that's changed.
We do actually have a question from Troy. He asks, with respect to AI prompting, is there any existing careers that seem to be helpful? For example, film directors achieving desired visual outcomes. Is there any data about about such careers in the AI industry so far?
What we're finding is that if someone is like a storyteller, that could be very descriptive language. I did one of these sessions last year, and I remember an English teacher power punched in the air and said, "Awesome, my job's safe," because it's about adverbs and describing words. One of my staff members is a screenwriter. Absolutely nails it every single time because they can actually put words in that finessing. But again, for the rest of us, mere mortals, we just have to ideate a lot, and start working and being aware of, that sometimes you get hallucinations in there, which if you don't know what that means, it just means it starts going off on a little tangent. There's a new term that's being brought out now is about scheming. I don't know if you've heard that one or not. So scheming is actually when AI goes, yeah, done, thanks, but doesn't. So it's more, we think about scheming as like, doing it maliciously. It's not, it's actually just thinking that it's done those sort of processes and, sort of doing deviations away from it. Right. They are actually working on ways of doing that. It has been used for bad as well as for good, but hopefully today we're going to be seeing it for good, how we can do that. During this session today, we've got a journal that you could probably use. We've also got a Padlet that love you to, if you've got something that you want to just be exploring and doing some visual ones, share it with us if you feel like it there. And also there will be a workbook that is attached to this as well, so that you've got something tangible to go away with and keep on exploring even after the session today. All right, so let's get down to the business of discovery. All right, so which tool would assist you or your students achieve that purpose that we were just talking about before that you may have put in the chat pod? They're the sort of things. So has everyone sort of seen or used a lot of these? So Firefly, put your hand up if there, or give us a thumbs up in the reactions. So any Firefly users? Yay, I can see a whole lot of thumbs up having them. What about the next one, which is Adobe Express? Yeah, a couple slow ones there. Awesome. Photoshop? Now, come on, Photoshop, there should be a whole heap. It's been out for about 35. Oh, look at that. All those thumbs up go on big time and love hearts. And then Illustrator. Oh, Illustrator's older than Photoshop, but yet we didn't get as many. That's interesting there. So hopefully by the end of this session, you're going to be a little more comfortable in Illustrator as well. Like get Gen AI to help you achieve those other purposes. All right, so the first one we're going to go into is we're actually going to go into Adobe Express. So let me just grab my screen over here. All right, so I've actually got some pre-made template areas that we can work on, so we can actually look at some of the options that we could do to actually engage in the classroom to have there. Now, some of these are actually pre-existing templates that you can just go into the Adobe Exchange area and fill your boots, modify them to your classroom here. I thought this was a great one along the lines of illustrating a storybook. And you can see over on the right-hand side, it's also a guided session. So there's that sort of almost like your own little personal YouTube sitting over the side here to actually help you walk through each one of these ones. So we can actually go in and change the text. We can also come along to our image. And so this image here was actually used the prompt of a black and white hand-drawn illustration of a small town at sunset with cozy houses, tree-lined streets, and students walking home. So there's that description sort of aspect. What sort of style is it in? What are we looking at, the visual sort of context overall? And even having those, sort of poetic sort of lines, of cozy, like just not houses or, because if you did houses, it would just randomly put different houses there. So we've got to, sort of use a bit more descriptive language in there. All right. You can see over here, we've got a few different controls that we can do. So if I wanted to actually remove a background or erase, or even remove an object, right? So those are on there. But what we want to do is this one here, which is generate an image. And if you generate an image, you can see straight away, I've got my little text here going there. I can also pop in a reference image for the style and also composition. So these are really cool to use when you're sort of going, I want a certain look and feel. That's the style one, even though you have the styles down here. And also composition could be the way that you want objects to be placed inside of that space as well. You can also see that we've got multiple models available. So we're using Firefly in the back end here. In Adobe Express, we're using Firefly 3 at the moment, but we're going to jump over to the number 4, and some of the other newer ones there. But also what we can see very interesting is underneath that, we've got multiple non-Firefly models. Now, these models are actually available right now. Only restriction is K-12. Sorry, you've got to be over 18. Right? That's like the school sort of aspect there. And that's because they're not actually going hand on the heart, this is safe, like we are inside of Firefly. So Firefly itself, you know it's actually only working on its own imagery from the Adobe stock. Whereas once we go to the other models, we're actually going out there. They won't be training on your image that you're making, but they will, and that's the safe part about it. That's what I love. So someone asked me previously, but why would I not just jump into ChatGPT or Google Gemini or something like that? The reason is they will actually be utilizing your imagery to learn from. Going through Firefly, it's almost like a PayPal transition, if you think of it that way. Like if you're buying something, you can have that area in the middle. That's the reasoning for that. But it does mean you get that power of utilizing a lot of the prompts that we can actually do there. Now you can see, who's heard of Nano Banana? Hey? Yeah, got a couple of thumbs up there. So Nano Banana is actually just the code name, but it's obviously gotten a whole lot of traction in the social space, and that means now everyone's calling it Nano Banana for a certain even technique. And I'm like, no, that's not a Nano Banana. That's just a Gen AI image using that model, that engine. So we're going to be looking at how we can actually utilize that today as well. All right, so if I go back to Express, just at the front page, you can see up the top here, we've got our area that we can jump to all our programs. If we wanted to see any more, we can actually hit the little plus. Straight away, you can also see that we've got a lot of quick editing, as we just saw before. But I'm going to jump over to your stuff. Now, your stuff is your stuff here. And this is a custom template that I've got here. Now, you actually do have this link available to you. When you do click on it, it's going to, because it's been a template. Now, there's a difference between remixing and template. Template will actually just allow you to move and make a new version of it from scratch. And it's also something that can be put into a project and be shared, whereas a remix is just like a label saying, hey, you can redo this one around. So both of them give you the same capability. So I'm going to say use template. But the great thing about this is the template has a quick replace. Right? So that way then, if I want to replace any of these items, I can, straight up. Now, this is the book bento box, right? So love Japanese food. So why not smash all that together with a exercise that you could do in the classroom that would allow you to see whether or not a student understands or has read the book. What are some of the significant elements or objects from that book that could actually be telling the story? And so here, if anyone's seen the matrix, obviously you've got the bullet time, there. We've got the red pill and the blue pill, and we've also got the phone, along with the data going on the front cover. So we've made that one there. All right, so over here, obviously I've just got a little title here. We could put it there. Could have done, into the matrix or whatever, your name, so you can do that as well. And simply by just clicking on these, I can go and change that, in whatever format I want. There's recommended fonts, so if I wanted to, change any of those. If I wanted to put an effect on there, so I might go up here and go up to effects, right? And straight away, we can actually generate the text. And what it's going to do, it's going to use Gen AI to actually now look at that font and then apply that technique to it. You can go and generate these from scratch. There it is, coming up. Cool. All right, so I could do that sort of aspect with utilizing text. What I want to come back to though is, let's just say I've got this here. Well, I can see that I can't click on it because it's actually embedded into it. And that's the difference between this being an image and this being embedded into the actual image itself. So there's a difference between how you actually bring things in. So how do we actually work with that? Well, let's have a look here. If I've got this image, I'm going to go back to edit, move background. Ready? Drum roll. Done. How cool is that, right? Straight away, I've got it there and being able to work with it. I can then just rotate it around, pop it there, maybe put it in some of the areas. It's a bit too large, so I might make it smaller. If I wanted to then come back and then look at some of the effects, I can actually apply Photoshop filters to it. I can actually also change tones if I need to. So if I wanted to, give it a bit of a shadow, so it actually has that shadow from the side here. So it's picking up that there and allowing you to work with that as well. All right, so I'm just going to pop that over here for a second. Looks like it's floating at the moment. Yep.
We're just getting a question about how we go back to selecting which AI engine is going to be used to generate things in Firefly. Do you want to, inside Express, sorry?
Yeah, so inside of Express, when you're actually doing this part of generation, which is what I'm going to show in a sec here, you can actually be able to apply that area. So what we're doing here is if I click on this image, you can see here, I can hit generate image, right? I could also say generate similar. So it's saying keep this, but generate something similar to it, right? But if I go to generate image, I've got single red and blue individual pill from above. There's a key one there. So how do I want to see it? On a transparent background. The first one I did it on a white background, just so I could show you how to remove that, but you could even ask for it to be on transparent. Here's our models, right? So we could actually jump into that space there, into one of these and there. Now you will see that these are a little bit more heftier in the credits. So you've got to be mindful that every time you use one of the external ones, it actually takes 20 credits. Whereas if we use the internal ones, we're only using 1 credit most of the time. Okay.
I think a lot of people are saying, Craig, that they don't have those options when they are in Express. So maybe is that something you have to add on?
No, it might be that they're in the classroom version of it, and that's where I was saying that you don't get that because the classroom version, the K-12 version, doesn't have that. So there's some things I'm going to show them today that you're going to be going, but jump into the full version and then you'll have lots of fun and being able to generate there. So you can see here that I can go along. I want art style. I can actually choose ones there, hit generate, and it's going to then go along. It's thinking. Okay, come on. Yeah, there we are. Okay, so there is our original result, but then it's got some of these, mixed ones there, and you can even hit generate more if you want to generate more. And then we're going to use those. So if you generate an image, it will then be just a floating layer, which we can see over on the right-hand side here. So we've got these layers here. Whereas if I go down here, what we've done with this one is I'm going to hit erase. Right? And I can actually erase. Now, erase is actually going to be, quite aggressive. It's going to just rip through like one there. I can also hit restore. So if you get a little bit, sort of over anxious and being able to do things, we can do that. You can also go to remove object. And sorry, just back up here. My zoom's just gone chaotic here. Back to No. No. I'm using a new app to pinpoint things, and it's just gone and done this crazy sort of zooming there. I might just jump out of that. Cool, we're getting some sharing already there. Thanks, Caitlin. She's in there. All right, so if I come back to Adobe Express, cool. Go to our bento box. All right, you can see I've just picked up exactly where I was before. Now, if I remove object, you've got this option here, just like the brush again. But what it's going to do is look at what's underneath and what's around it in regards of pixels and take it away for us. So if I hit remove, generating the results. And the magic, well, hey, it's getting there. That one's probably the better one, but it still hasn't been as good as it could. So I could actually go back and do a little bit more, of a larger brush. It should be just doing, you don't have to be really precise. If you do really precision, you'll find that you actually end up with artifacts like this sitting there. So that's where you might utilize something else. Now I'm just going to say never mind, because I want to keep that and discard. Sorry, discard. Yep, cool. Because I want to use it for later on.
People are just talking in the chat about how there's so different licenses for the Adobe suite, depending on which school you're at.
Yep. Sorry, I'm back again. I just lost connectivity for a second there. Yep.
That's okay. We were
just
chatting at the moment about the frustration with the different Adobe licenses, depending on which school you're in. You sometimes get one version and then other functions are not in it, and it can get quite confusing, I think, for people.
And there's that really sort of aspect of, you get sort of the carrot put in front of you, go, oh, I'd love to have that, but it's not there. But this is a good way of actually going back to the school and going, hey, I need it for this purpose, rather than I want because it's shiny and that sort of aspect. It's that sort of on there. But you can see I could see very simple handgun black is actually what gave me a whole range of different ones there. That could sort of vary. If you want to change that object, we could just simply change the name and move on from there. All right, so my number one pet hate though too is having an untitled space up here. So box demo, that way then I know it's there. This is going straight to the cloud. As you can see, a little cloud icon there. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? You've got some approaches there you could take with utilizing a bento box. And with that there, you could actually open up the journals or even the workbook for today. So I've just loaded this and you've got a link to all of this as well. So if you wanted to play along at home and watch this through, you can see these are all the areas that we're going through today and looking at some of those aspects of what are some of the challenges I got, but they've got little reflecting prompts for you to utilize during the session or afterwards as well. All right, so if we jump back to our previous one, okay, let's go to Firefly. Firefly, number 2 up on the list. All right, this is the big daddy, the what actually should be the little son. Because does anyone know what is the main back-end learning area that it's utilizing in Firefly? So we've got some bonus points here. No. All right, I did say I like Japanese food, but I also like Japanese culture. So Sensei has actually been there since 2017 in the back end. That was Adobe's first step into there. So you've probably been using Gen AI in Photoshop without knowing. Have you used neural filters before? You've got Gen AI, right? It's learning from the images that are there. So we've got that where, it's now going out for more visual. It's now for Firefly. Did I see a hand up there for a sec? Nope.
No, just a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Awesome. Cool. All right. So here we are. We can actually generate images, video, and vectors. Right. So we've got those areas there in the one I've got. Again, it's back to what Travis was saying about the really annoying thing that sometimes you get something added and some you don't. So within TAFE New South Wales, we don't have the video and audio and the vectors at the moment. But on the full version I've got here, I can go through and generate those. But for today, we're just going to generate the image because everyone has that aspect. Now, if I hit generate, and
while we're waiting for that, one question came in about the difference in quality between vector generation of different models. Have you had any luck with other models, I guess more so than Firefly, for generating vector images, Craig?
I always use the right tool for the right job. I'm a real big believer in that. There's one little bit of a bias, though. I will go back to Illustrator.
Yeah.
All right. If I'm going to do that. But the question there, obviously, if I'm getting different models, yes, there is a lot of difference. But if I want to nail it, Illustrator. It's just, and look, hopefully today you'll step out of this session today and go, awesome, I'm going to be using there. Now you can see here, we've got Firefly image 4, right? So we've got that option there, but we've also got, so these ones are commercially safe. So they've really, sort of differentiated. And then we've got our partner models. And you can see here, we've got a lot more partner models directly inside of Firefly, right? So if I was going to use Gemini 2.5, and I want to do an avatar sort of variation, I'm going to put very generic information here. All right, so I've just did a description. I haven't told it where or when, or anything else like that. So I'm just generating this now. This is using the Gemini 2.5, or also known as Nano Banana, right? And so we've got that aspect there. Doesn't really look like me. Mind you, it's funny when you hit old man, you get all these different variations. I could be a bit more descriptive, but you can see straight away, how do you want to change this image? Right, so that's the difference by using the Gemini 2.5. The first generation allows you there, and then you're using the same image and generating it through and making those changes. So I'm just going to jump back for a second, and I'm going to grab an image. Let's go to and so I might go through and say,
yeah, I think a lot of people are finding they don't have any other access to different models within Firefly. I think the Ed versions are all locked just to the Firefly native generator.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll jump back into that one in a second. I really wanted to show how this works differently. So it is quite different in that respect here. So let's just say it's taking a little longer today. I don't know why. It might be that we're getting heavy traffic use.
Also, Craig, with the original links to the workbook, is that something they got in the plenary session this morning? Some of those links to the documents that you were sharing before?
No, they'll actually be available today. So, Travis, you got a link to the workbook. Happy for you to pop that in the chat for us.
I'll find it now.
And And that way then they'll be able to go there now.
Art Learning Journal, is that the one?
Learning Journal's the one that I was talking about, that you've got like as a journal, that aspect you could fill in as you're going. There is another one that says workbook.
Gotcha. I'll find them. So this is the Learning Journal. And
so it's not done what I expected it to. See, so sometimes you do get some weird and wonderful, I said use the image. So it's gone, oh, okay. I'll just get rid of the person and I'll just put you in a nice, landscape sort of aspect there for usage there. Right. So the idea is you may not always get exactly what you want to do it. You may need to generate as you're going along. All right. So now if I go here, we can see that I can also change other variations. So I've actually gone from this image back out and back in. And so now I can go back to general settings and I can use Firefly Image 4. So you can utilize multiple models. That's what I was trying to say. So that if you did actually have access to one thing, it doesn't mean that it's locked in and it's only that format. It actually can be applied multiple along. And then I could say, I want to use a photo. I want to add another reference image here. Or I could even say I'd like to actually have this sort of one as a reference for composition. Or maybe I want that style. So again, it's actually looking at these as effect. And I want to actually have black and white. So we can do that one there. And you can see straight away, we're getting all the prompts down here. So we don't have to always write our prompts. And you can also go to describe the image if I wanted to. And the other one, if you click under here, the little next to the generate, you've got the standard feature, which you may have only. This is also another one. So I can flick prompt suggestions. So then it will try to be a little bit like, the autocorrect and the prompting there. You can actually have that there. So it'll actually start going, oh, is this what you're trying to ask for? And also there's some enhancements there that allowing us to actually look in the back end and go, oh, make some changes for you as you're going along. All right, so I can
One question that's come in,
Yep.
Craig, is if you do have access to the different models, like Gemini, for instance, and Nano Banana, will that influence, or will it be influenced, by Firefly, using it through the Firefly front end? Does it change at all how those other models work?
Yes, it's like in that respect that it's filtering that aspect of how the model's going out more globally.
Mm-hmm.
It's only still utilizing the stock and also utilizing your images that you've got there in that safe space. Right?
Yep.
It's not commercially viable, commercially safe is what they're using the wording, because I could say, make this image in, if I come back to this one. So if I was looking at this image here, I could actually go and generate this in the style of Asterix.
Yeah.
Right. Or, Sonic the Hedgehog, or, like I can actually use commercial names there. It also, you can see here, it actually tells you that this has actually been generated there, and it's completely AI generated. This is using the content credentials, really cool in the authenticity space. You can actually use that in that project there, but that would be a whole another session by itself. Got to jump now. You sort of just tick the little bottom up, the button up the top there. We're jumping from Firefly to Photoshop on the web. Don't know if you know this or not, but Photoshop on the web is just as powerful as Photoshop on the desktop. Right? Really cool. It just has a little bit more sort of leading or being able to direct you in spaces. So we can see here that we've got our selection tools. We've got, there's a selection to edit your image. I'm going to close these off. Right, I've got size, I've got generative, I can adjust, etc. some quick actions. So there are some things there that we don't have in the full version of Photoshop, but we also got invite. So I could go, hey, Travis, come work with me. I'm going to work on this image. Now, I made the mistake one time of doing this in a presentation and invited everybody, and, well, the image got destroyed. But you can also see we can download. So very similar to what's in Express, but it's got these other powerful parts. So I'm going to go into the generative, and you can see I could do generative fill. Right, so I've got that option available for us there. Oops. I can also go generative expand. This is my favorite one. I absolutely love doing this. So I go there and I go, yep, I want him to be sitting on the thirds there. And let's bring him there, right? So I've got that little bringing the third, so you bring your eyes directly there, sort of aspect, but I'd love to actually have more of a scene over here. Now, if I don't put anything in here, and I just hit expand, this is now going to look at all the pixels there, like what it did before, and drum roll, 91. The percentage is actually in computer time, not actually in real time. Hey, what do you think? Hey, nice. How cool is that? And it's its own layer. See, so I can actually go and generate that in another more space if I want to. So all of a sudden now you're saying, oh, I need this image to be portrait. I want it to be a certain aspect ratio for A4. I actually want to change this image now so it's actually going to be on the screen. So really dynamic sort of aspect there you can work with. The harmonize actually harmonizes colors. So there's some really cool ones there with lighting and shading. We've got upscaling. So it can actually go and upscale, because pixel based, if you upscale, you get pixels. And big pixels noted, not lots of that sort of aspects of rogue pixels, I call them, or the jaggies. This way here, it actually tries to step interpolation is a technical term. We used to do it manually, and it's long and tedious, and you used to write actions. Now Gen AI does it for us. So that's been in there. Also, it can generate another image, so more complex sort of aspect there. But I'm going to go up here and go generative fill.
So Craig, while you're doing that, people are asking, given that this is so powerful, the web version of Photoshop, what is the main difference between this and the app on your desktop, and why can you do all this in the desktop app as well as being on the browser?
You can't do all of these things. That's so some of the things that are in here, so being able to do the invite at the moment, I think that's coming. Sorry, I do a lot of beta testing, as I was telling Travis the other day. So there's sometimes I go, is that there yet or not? But there are things that I see in here, and then I jump into the full version and go, oh, I can't do that. So yeah, things like that capability of being able to collaborate, I think is really cool, and that's going to come to the desktop version. But also just the simplification of a lot of those tools. So Photoshop is used by so many different areas, and it's quite complex. It could be sort of overwhelming or daunting to a first-time user. So this is a nice way of getting them in, utilizing the space, and then working there from there. So if I go, rabbit, I'm just going to keep it very, very simple. So the more simplified I go, the more random it can go. But the more complex you go, it might actually also confuse as well. So you've got to have that happy medium of really keeping to the format of describing the background, describing the image, and describing the feeling or the aspect you're after. So we've got this, monster killer rabbit coming in there. Obviously, I could do the harmonize to generate that one there. And then work with that. So pretty cool sort of way of using Photoshop in a different format. You can also see we've got the auto saving up on the cloud. So I'm not going to be lost and go, oh, hang on, I've lost that one there. All right. So also this here, Shell from Adobe, she's the lead for the Adobe Creative Educators across the world. Had this great Express 101 area. Again, happy to have that shared in the desktop, in the chat, so that you've got reference to that as well. I don't know.
Where's
did I put that one in?
I don't think
I'm going to pop
that one in.
Yeah, there it is there.
Thanks.
All right, so we got that one happening there. This really goes back to that structure of prompting. Yeah, what's the subject? What's your background? What's the style? And even putting the word style with a colon there. You'll notice that you don't have to do a lot of semicolons or anything like that. It's more natural in the language. The other cool one is you can actually put it in any over 100 different languages. So if you're a French teacher and you're going, do they understand that? All right, everyone, I want you to give me a picture of a dog. And they're going to be going, oh, man, what was that word that we got? La chien. Oh, okay, bang, we could write that in and it'll actually generate a dog. Right? So yeah, it's a great way of learning another language. and also putting things in there. So it's a really cool way of generating sort of a different approach, like thinking outside that box and thinking, well, how would I sort of approach that? She's also gone through and really looked at some of the just different ways or different styles. So you might be thinking, oh, I need a prompt to think of the style that I want to use. She's also got a whole lot of remixable templates. So this is like a golden treasure trove that you can start going through and you start going, oh, hang on, there's a link here for that. Creating a prompt, even the style reference. So being able to do some grass and then add that as a reference. And then all of a sudden now you've got that in that same styling, and even composition for where it's looking. And then we've got scaffolding. So scaffolding is really, really important. So it's about starting small and then working up. So you might be going a dark and stormy night with a house. See how we're building that up? So it's an iteration aspect. And then they get that and they go, cool, the middle one's cool, but actually I want it more charcoal sketched, messy. Okay, give that prompt in there. Explore, do it, rather than sort of generating sort of, oh, that's it, done. AI's done it for me. Well, no, it's actually augmenting your creativity, your intelligence there, bringing that across, right? So going back to, remember it's the subject, it's the detail, the style and background, right? So very, very great way of working. So if you've not, sort of ventured into the space of Gen AI, then this is a perfect one there to go to. All right, I am mindful of time. I think we're coming up to...
Couple of questions, Craig, coming in. One question from Troy is, if you use Photoshop on the web, what's the difference in the memory use that you're going to experience on your computer between that and the desktop app?
Number one, that's a loaded question, isn't it? It's because it depends, and I hate saying that when I answer ones there. I've got a M3 chip sitting in my computer here on the Mac, 64 gig of RAM. Do I have any issues at all? No, right? I don't see any difference between them. But I understand what you're saying there. If I had a standard machine, which would I do, especially we're in our schools and schools are going to go, why do you want so much RAM? Well, it is less RAM intensive, but it does require a good connection, which most schools hopefully have got that sorted as well. So we've got that one there. So Troy, that's a really great question. But like I said, I wanted to do you justice there by actually giving you a confirmed one. but I could have been real smart ass about it and just said, ah, get your school to buy the latest, greatest machines. We know that's not going to happen. Not without a whole lot of, sort of wishings and going on. All right, so going along here, going to bring across. Now, this one, I definitely know that most of us may not have access to, but if you've got your personal sort of Adobe account, the Adobe Illustrator beta, right? So it is actually different to the normal Illustrator. It is a beta version. It is publicly available. This only just came out. This is Turntable. This blew my mind because last year at Adobe Max, I saw this being utilized on very flat 2D objects and being able to be made. So I actually had a fashion student give us this illustration drawing that they had. I could click on it. I click over here to Turntable, and I get a brand new little dialogue over here, like a little controller. Ready? How cool's that, hey?
We've got some shocked faces, yeah.
And I can actually rotate it around as well, right? So it's redrawing this on the fly. Now that's real time. And that, yeah, it's great for character design. Yeah, awesome. You could jump from basically Firefly, bring the image in, trace it, do an image trace so we can do that really quickly. And then from there, go and actually do the turntable. Something that may have taken us, 6 weeks teaching the students, we're going to now do in a class. The other great thing about this is that it's actually a vector that I can change completely. So if I've got this extra random one out here that I can go, okay, I'm going to change that. So I've got that full control, right? So if there was something there that we need to get rid of or something aspect there. So again, for the Illustrator users or non-users, this could be a really cool one there. I'm waiting for this to come onto the main version. Can't wait for it to be in there. And also there is an Illustrator online version, very similar to the Photoshop, but it's still a little bit behind because it has got a lot of the Gen AI in it. But I thought that one there, I'd love to just sort of teach you with a little bit of a more advanced sort of aspect there. And then, just to wrap up for the session today, if I had this as a drawing, right? Isn't it awesome? No, I'm only joking, right? This is just to show that, look, if you say to them, can you draw? And they go, no, I can't draw. Well, can you do this? Yep. Hey, what is that? It's a couple of mountains with a stream, with a ibis-y type bird, with the sunshine. Don't know what the round donut thing is, but I've just thrown that in. If I hit generate vectors and I describe what I actually have got in my drawing, so I'm actually using both visual prompt as well as textual prompt, and it does suggestions. Mountains with snow, water bird near lake, clear blue sky with sun. I've got 3 different options: a scene, a subject, an icon. So it can generate each one of these for us. Really cool way. So if it's a subject, it's only going to be the mountains by itself without the scene. And if it's an icon, it actually simplifies it even down to a very simple style reference. I'm going to hit here and choose asset. There it is. So I've got it there. And I'm going to hit generate. And yes, it does give me 1 credit away. And now it's actually going to generate the new version for us. And this is the other one that gives the aha moment. It's there. Right, so when students go, I can't draw, I can't do this, you can see down the bottom, there we are. How cool is that? Right? And we've got multiple different versions. and it's vector, so I can resize it. I'm getting another, oh my God. Yes, this game changer for most people to get into Illustrator. And this is the normal version of Illustrator, it's not any beta version. When this got applied in there, I was just like, this is next level, right? And it also allows you to do things like, we've got different approaches. If I come over here, you can see that we've got the different generations. If I've got, style references as we've just used, right, we can actually change that to subject or icon. And we can also, down the bottom, start doing recolors. I can do a global element, and I can also, guess what? There's my favorite thing. Whoa, here we go. So Troy's doing his animation, right? He's got his character, he's got it already there, and he wants to have a scene now that he can scroll through. So I don't have to actually tell it anything other than I want this expanded. So I want this to be a nice pano that I can actually generate to have a character scroll through. All right, so
wow.
How cool is that, hey?
So one question people are having is, what are the paths like that? If you can expand that, does that all become editable?
Yep.
Fantastic.
That's the really cool thing about it. And when we were doing that sort of aspect, you can see simplify, etc. When I was doing the expansion on it, so if I come back, when we were in this here and doing the generation, I could actually go also and change the detail. So really detailed or less detail, right? So you've got that control there. But some really cool sort of aspects there of utilizing that. I'd love to spend all day doing this, but unfortunately, good things do actually have to come to an end. So let's just hit OK on that.
One last question on that from Luke. When you do generate from a sketch, does it only generate shapes, or does it generate generate fills and strokes as well as the shapes that it's making?
So it's taking that style from it. So it's composition. Also, it's using the style. So if someone's really cool at drawing, when I say really cool, they can actually draw so that we can actually understand the drawing really quickly. That's my way of thinking that, because even that simplified there, it communicated across what I wanted. But if you were able to do even more, so what I'd love you to do is actually look about how you can actually embed Gen AI into your lesson plans and your student workflows, and even generating some of the stuff for your product developments. If I jump back one, so we said which one we're going to explore. Hands-on. I'd love you to, during the day, when you do some of the breaks, have a go. Share it up on the Padlet, or even sort of afterwards on LinkedIn, etc. Reach out to us. So just as a wrap up, I'd love you to reflect on this creative impact. What are your next steps? What's the first thing you're going to go and try? And obviously being able to utilize these for more purpose rather than just exploration and go, oh, that's pretty, that's nice. It's actually, what is the purpose that I'm doing here? What am I trying to generate? And how's that going to help the students achieve the goal of their learning experience, depending on the area we are. So as I said before, it doesn't have to be a core creative space. It could actually be, okay, someone in the nursing area needs to actually understand sort of concept. So how can I visually show that? By utilizing the right terminology, they need to have that aspect as well. All right, so if you'd like to catch up at all, here's my LinkedIn QR code. Also, that's the direct link. I have put it in some of the workbooks as well, so you will be able to generate that. I'm also an Adobe community expert and creative educator, innovator, and leader, so a bit of both, sitting on both higher ed and also K-12, because of TAFE we use both from about year 9 upwards. And lastly, thank you for being part of this session today. here's the code to some other EDU resources that Tim and the APAC team have put together for today and ongoing. And also, love to get your feedback. Yeah, definitely we need more time. I can give that feedback straight away. I know. I just love that. Where'd they go? You've got 45 minutes. It's like, okay, I need an hour. All right. But yeah, any last questions before we wrap up, guys?
Look, there's a bunch of questions coming in, but I think most of them have been answered. I've put the Padlet link up as well as the feedback link. And yeah, I think everyone's been just really impressed with what the possibilities are here.
Yeah, awesome, cool. And look forward to catching you a little bit later on. And look, reach out. That's, I have an open door sort of policy there. I may not answer straight away, but it might be sort of a couple of days to a week. But definitely, I'd love to see how people are exploring and pushing the envelope there. On that, guys, have a nice day.
Thanks, everyone.